And keep in mind, this is the other curious part, the big capitalists didn't necessarily want Reagan at the end of the decade because they feared the idea that he might go too far. Okay, and if he does, what are we going to have to confront then? But they liked Carter. They loved Carter because Carter was basically a centrist Democrat, okay, who when push came to shove, he deregulated business, finance, and transportation. He turned his back on the consumer rights movement and the labor movement in 1978 to the point where Doug Frazier, who was the head of the UAW, sent a public letter to the Carter administration saying he was quitting the Dunlop Commission, which was the labor management commission that was carrying on a conversation for years over labor management relations in the economy. He said, I cannot participate in this. They've declared class war on labor, and I will not be a part of this.
Oh, damn.
And this.
I mean, I knew Carter is not as, I think with Reagan coming right after, Carter's presidency has become, everyone has like rose-colored glasses on. But like you said, I recently learned that Carter was the one who deregulated, I believe, the airline industry. So,
transportation and finance. He launched it. Look, we all know the term neoliberalism. That's really what this film was about. Carter is the neoliberal. He's the neoliberal. He launches it, and Democrats ever after followed him. Clinton and Obama, which we'll get to eventually. So, and Moore is showing us, to go back to Rivka's point, Moore is showing us the human costs of neoliberalism, which we actually began to see in the 70s because I know I talked to you guys about this in the past. It's in the 70s when you really begin to see what I could never have imagined before, and that is homelessness on the streets of major American cities. We're so used to that right now that we can't believe it ever didn't exist.
Sure.
But it did. And homelessness did not exist to anywhere near the extent we've come to know it. When I was growing up, there were people who were out of work and there were people who were in trouble, but you didn't drive in the Bowery in New York and see people, or everywhere you went, you didn't see people homeless.
It's in every city now. Yeah.
It's right. It's been this way for 30, 40 years, all because of what was going on in the 70s. Yeah. So that's why it's so important for what he did in that, putting a human face on neoliberalism.
Yeah, and he does kind of, I agree. I wanted him to go a little bit deeper on, like you're saying, the class war from above of the 70s, because he kind of just says, the capitalists needed someone. Ronald Reagan came along. He was a corporate spokesperson. He was their guy, so they put, Don Regan from Merrill Lynch into his administration. I'm sure there was a number of other finance people in and around the Reagan campaign and administration, but he does kind of yada it a little bit, but...
well, essentially, yeah, he's very clear that the country under Reagan is now going to be run like a corporation. I think what I'm hearing is we wanted more of a what was it being run like before? Is we want a little clarity of that, and what is also the ideal for it to not be run like, and also I think it's hinted at, but more specifically, why is that inevitable under capitalism for it to be run by a corporation?